The issue of undocumented immigrants in South Africa is often framed around migrants from African countries, particularly those from neighboring nations such as Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Lesotho. However, what is often overlooked or underreported is the significant presence of undocumented immigrants from non-African regions such as Europe, North America, South Asia, and East Asia. These groups have been living and working illegally in South Africa for years, yet public discourse, government action, and media coverage overwhelmingly focus on African migrants. This selective attention not only distorts the realities of immigration in South Africa, but also exposes an unequal treatment that perpetuates xenophobia, disproportionately targeting Black Africans. In terms of sheer numbers, it is difficult to ascertain the exact population of undocumented immigrants from countries like the United States, Germany, the United Kingdom, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, and others. Much of this difficulty stems from the clandestine nature of undocumented immigration. However, estimates from various sources indicate that there are several thousand undocumented immigrants from these regions. For instance, according to the Department of Home Affairs and immigration experts, a significant portion of undocumented immigrants who overstay their visas come from countries such as the UK and Germany, often entering the country on tourist or business visas. Similarly, immigrants from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, who often enter on work or study visas, may overstay their visas and subsequently live in South Africa without legal documentation. One of the striking aspects of this issue is the relative invisibility of these undocumented immigrants compared to those from African countries. Undocumented immigrants from Europe, North America, and Asia tend to blend more easily into expatriate communities in major cities such as Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. Their ability to assimilate into certain professional and social environments often shields them from the type of scrutiny or harassment faced by African immigrants. For instance, many Europeans and North Americans work in industries such as education, hospitality, and business, where their language skills and qualifications are in high demand. In contrast, African immigrants are often pigeonholed into low-paying, labor-intensive jobs, which are more visible and subject to public scorn. The South African government has been particularly ineffective in addressing the problem of undocumented immigration due to both bureaucratic inefficiency and widespread corruption within the Department of Home Affairs. There have been numerous reports of bribery involving Home Affairs officials, who are known to accept payments in exchange for fraudulent documents, facilitating illegal stays for both African and non-African immigrants. The problem of illegal stayovers is prevalent among immigrants from countries such as the United States, Canada, and Australia, many of whom enter the country for tourism or short-term business purposes, but decide to remain indefinitely without updating their legal status. Moreover, in terms of nationality, the global migrant flows to South Africa include significant numbers from India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Undocumented immigrants from these South Asian nations often find themselves working in informal economies, such as street vending, small-scale retail, or family-owned businesses. They also frequently set up in communities where they provide goods and services to local South Africans. This population tends to be much more visible than their European or North American counterparts, due in part to their occupations being concentrated in densely populated urban and suburban areas. However, like African migrants, these undocumented Asian immigrants face xenophobic sentiment. Their businesses are often targeted for looting during outbreaks of violence, as seen in the periodic xenophobic attacks that have plagued South Africa in recent years. Another important aspect to consider is the sizable Chinese community in South Africa, which includes a significant proportion of undocumented individuals. Chinese immigrants are often involved in retail and wholesale trade, particularly in selling consumer goods such as electronics, clothing, and household items. While some enter South Africa legally through business or work permits, many others have overstayed their visas or entered the country with fraudulent documents. Chinese immigrants have been linked to large-scale importation operations, particularly in Johannesburg and Durban, where they are a visible and growing community. Despite the substantial economic contributions of these undocumented immigrants, they too face instances of xenophobia, albeit far less violently compared to African immigrants. Historically, South Africa's immigration laws have been poorly enforced, and much of this has been attributed to a lack of resources, personnel, and political will. While there have been efforts to tighten border control and deport undocumented immigrants, the focus has overwhelmingly been on African nationals. For instance, mass deportations tend to disproportionately affect Zimbabweans, Malawians, Mozambicans, and Congolese, while the authorities often ignore or underreport the presence of illegal immigrants from Western nations. This selective enforcement reflects a broader racial bias within the system, where undocumented immigrants of African descent are stigmatized while non-African migrants are allowed to remain largely undisturbed. This disparity is further exacerbated by public sentiment and media portrayal. The South African media has been instrumental in shaping negative perceptions of African immigrants, often portraying them as a source of crime, unemployment, and social unrest. By contrast, undocumented immigrants from Europe, North America, and Asia are rarely mentioned, even though they too are part of the illegal immigrant population contributing to various sectors of the economy. This skewed portrayal reinforces xenophobic attitudes, as African immigrants become the scapegoats for societal issues, while non-African migrants enjoy relative invisibility and freedom from persecution. The current system of selective enforcement is not only unjust but also unsustainable. South Africa's immigration policy needs to be revamped to address the realities of undocumented immigrants from all regions, not just Africa. This includes stricter regulations on visa overstays, better tracking systems for tourists and short-term workers, and an overhaul of the Department of Home Affairs to reduce corruption and inefficiency. At the same time, it is crucial to challenge the racial bias inherent in immigration enforcement and public discourse. Public awareness campaigns should focus on the diverse origins of undocumented immigrants and emphasize that the issue is not limited to African nationals. Furthermore, civil society organizations and human rights groups must push for comprehensive reforms that include pathways to legalization for undocumented immigrants, regardless of their nationality or race. Such reforms would not only reduce the number of undocumented individuals in South Africa but also promote social cohesion by addressing the underlying xenophobia that targets African immigrants. By bringing attention to the undocumented European, American, Asian, and Middle Eastern migrants, South Africa can take a more balanced and fair approach to immigration enforcement and reduce the racial tensions that have plagued the country for decades. In summary, while there is significant attention given to African immigrants in South Africa, the reality is that undocumented immigrants from Europe, North America, South Asia, and East Asia are also living and working illegally in the country. These immigrants often go unnoticed due to racial and professional dynamics, while African immigrants bear the brunt of public hostility and governmental action. Addressing this disparity is not only a matter of fairness but also a necessity for developing a more effective and humane immigration policy. South Africa must confront the issue of undocumented immigration in a comprehensive manner, focusing on all groups and ensuring that xenophobia is eradicated from both policy and public life. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates.